It is September 13th, 2013. It's been exactly 2 years since I've left Oregon. It's like a little anniversary for me. Do you feel like you are a part of the 99%? The masses. The masses of humanity. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. Does that mean something? Do you feel something from that? Does that resonate with you? Are you attracted to the slogan that you are a part of the masses, the mass way of thinking? Because that's where I'm going with this video, and it's just food for thought, and I think that you may want to share this thought with someone else who takes pride in being a part of the mass of humanity and the mass of human behavior and belief systems. I don't think there's any pride in being just like everybody else. And in everything that I've learned when it comes to history, and I've learned about, whether it be American history, European history, Asian history, or Middle Eastern history, and whether we're talking about politics, whether we're talking about religion, whether we're talking about the economy, most people follow. And we could speculate as to why that is. But throughout time, the 99% has either worshipped or followed or taken the commands of the king or ruler of the day. People also talk about the Revolutionary War in the United States being fought by only 2 to 3% of the U.S. population at that time that were in the colonies. Only 2 to 3% of the population was resisting. There was no 99% uprising against King George. The masses were not driving the Revolutionary War. The masses throughout time have not driven some of the greater aspects of social change. The masses throughout time, wherever we are on the planet, whatever region of the earth we want to look at, whatever time, has always followed and taken orders from the king, from the empire, from the priests, from the mullahs. And the minority, you can even call it the real 1%. Not the 1% people are thinking about when they're screaming outside banks and they're squatting in city parks. Not the 1% that they are thinking of, but a different 1%. Not one based in 1% of the world's wealth, but a way of thinking. Because I'll tell you what, you look at any part of the world, you look at any time period, and you're going to have evidence of a small percent of the population resisting the evil of that time, trying to overcome with knowledge and share with others the ignorance of that time, be it spiritual or be it other. There was a time, we've heard this a lot growing up. There was a time where Galileo was told that the earth was flat, that he was a madman for suggesting that the earth is round. In no way, shape, or form did Galileo represent the 99%. In fact, he was probably representing a way of thinking that was far less than 1%. And yet the 1% that people are thinking about is more like 0.000000000001%. When you're talking about the true holders of the earth's wealth, and really what we're talking about is money, not necessarily the earth's wealth. So when you're talking about the super wealthy, the super rich, we're going beyond trillions to the area that some of us may not be able to chart, document. And the true super wealthy own the papers and make sure that they stay out of the papers themselves. They stay out of the press. They stay out of the media. That is the agenda of the super wealthy. Now you have wealthy people around to a degree. You have people that have made millions of dollars in the stock market. What I've heard from the masses, and there's been good people at Occupy. This isn't a slam on people that have chosen to be a part of Occupy. I think that there are people with good interests. There are certainly good intentions, rather. There are certain many opportunists and would-be rock stars, protest rock stars, that emerged on the scene briefly for their 15 minutes of fame because the cameras are everywhere. The louder you scream, the more possibility you might end up on TV. You might end up on YouTube. You might end up on RT. The mass way of thinking, however, Occupy, libertarians aside, and independents aside, and true anarchists, not counterfeit, socialist, communist, let's have another system of control anarchists, true anarchists, those people aside, libertarians aside, and independent thinkers aside, and real journalists aside, the masses showed extreme anger, resentment, and fury that they somehow found themselves in student loan debt, as I have been for years. But that doesn't drive my anger. I don't care about that. I just don't respond to it. It's just like, do what you're going to do. Yeah, you're going to be able to do a lot. There's a lot of us that have gone broke and defaulted on student loans. Good luck with that. Stop calling. Oh, I don't have a cell phone anymore. It's in the water. What me worry. But yet all these people screaming and yelling about the job situation, the student loan debt, and I'm sitting back on the sidelines going, some of you are professing to only care about this, and you just seem to be shouting about how you want more taxes to take the wealth from others, but I'm not hearing you scream about, as you've heard me talk about many, many times, the victims of war. Those that have been murdered, those that have been slaughtered, all done at the hands of this government, including the current president. And you don't have a problem with that. You found some way to keep all of your anger pointed in the direction of a few banksters and relating to what you feel to be your own economic problems. Well, it's kind of interesting because leading up to Occupy, which kicked off in the fall of 2011, I didn't have a place to live. And I'm on Access Television, and I'm the only one in town, Clyde Lewis talked about it a few times, that talked about the martial law drill that took place in Portland in 2007. It's called Top Off 4. You guys can find that video. It's still online. Type in my name and Top Off 4. And there were a number of black helicopter drills, and I was very concerned about that. Wrote a couple articles about that and talked about that quite a bit on my show. Went down to City Hall. I was very upset. I looked Sam Adams in the eye. How could you do this, man? You want to act like, there's change in the air. Sam Adams was presenting himself to be some sort of a Barack Obama. Change we can believe in. We have a homosexual mayor now. Everything's going to be fine. We're free. We're progressive. And people started to figure out that, his sexuality aside, this guy Sam Adams is corrupt and incompetent as shit and dirty. There are some serious skeletons in that man's closet. For all we know, though, with his extracurricular affairs, the dude may have been blackmailed. We just don't know. But I remember trying to raise awareness. And my thinking was a little grandiose. I wanted to be someone that would run for city council in the 2012. In fact, I wanted the gold. I wanted to be mayor. But I didn't really think that I would be mayor. What I wanted to do was galvanize support for a platform that would be based around Portland being more independent from the federal government, Portland kicking out the feds, JTTF, Homeland Security, and other things that have happened over the years. They need to be brought up, discussed, and they need to be fixed. They need to be addressed. The military presence in Portland truly bothered me, being someone that has been studying the increase in the merging between police and military for years, as most of you have been and have kept your eyes open over the years to see this happen in my own backyard. They have a show on Access TV. I want to utilize that platform to bring greater awareness to this issue. I can't tell you how many times people laughed at me for even discussing it. People are much more comfortable talking about the safe issues, the popular issues. But you get into criticizing Homeland Security, DHS, the military, the government, surveillance, Big Brother, having some sort of relationship with the city of Portland. That was shocking to me, and it was infuriating to me. And so, towards the end of my stay in 2011, for a while, for at least a year, I didn't have a place to live. And the reason I have a place to live is because the rents are fairly high in Portland, and most people just want their space. Unless you're paying rent at least $350 a month, there really isn't anywhere for you to live, unless you have really good friends that have extra space. The extra space doesn't seem to exist in such a utopia type of city of Portland as many people believe that it is. It simply was too expensive for me to continue to live in my own hometown, even though I grew up in a smaller town south of Portland by 25 miles. Portland's really in my heart always been my hometown. And I've stayed there pretty consistently since the age of 16. Even though before I had spent some time in Portland when I was younger, after the age of 16, coming back from the East Coast where I lived for a year, at that point I chose to never leave Portland because there was a part of me that was in love. Now, I'm talking about Occupy, and all what I just got into is just something that's going to lead into this even more. So the way I'm looking at this, I put myself out there. I've discussed these issues. I haven't just focused on the New World Order and stuff happening nationally. I was very much wanting to cover and expose and show people locally what was going down and how serious this is. For Homeland Security to be able to get inside Portland's computers, to be in its emergency response center, to be flying drones and helicopters over the city. Yes, there are articles you can find now about drones over Portland. So all that was very, very disturbing. And I had no place to live, so it seemed to me that the people around me in Portland didn't value that type of service. So there were a lot of different reasons. It wasn't just one. It was like a collection of a couple different, at least a dozen maybe, factors that led to me saying, you know what, I should broaden my horizons, I should have more experience, I should leave my home state, I may come back, but I need to get out there and see the world and see if maybe my knowledge, my skills, my passion will be appreciated somewhere else, okay? And then Occupy starts, a little bit after I left. Now, these are angry. And by the way, I was involved in protests since at least I woke up. And it took a few years. But at the age of 25, 26, I started showing up to protests all the way up until 2011 in Portland, Oregon. The anti-war protests, the huge anti-war demonstrations. In fact, now that I think about it, it was a little bit earlier than 2005, but I remember it was in 2006 I started bullhorning for the first time in downtown Portland on a regular basis, and I showed up at every single protest on the anniversary of the invasion of Iraq to remind protesters that this is really about 9/11 being a staged event, because the majority of those protesters at that time were part of the mainstream leftist worldview that this is just about oil. And the vast majority of those protesters at that time turned around and voted for Barack Obama in 2008. You can look up 75,000 visit Barack Obama in Portland, Oregon, or go to see Barack Obama in Portland, Oregon as he was campaigning in 2008. That broke my heart. That was very, very painful. And to have people glare at me in town just because I'm talking about the hypocrisy, the drones, the expanding wars, Obama's ties to Monsanto. Fill in blank here. It is all documented. Why would you be in denial about this? And just a lot of emotions came up. Okay, so you're guilty about the racism in the past, that Caucasians, that Americans, that white people have subjected people of color to. Yet my